The wedding dress was still hanging from the chandelier when Celestine Armand discovered that her sister had stolen the groom. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. At 11:17 on the morning, Celestine was supposed to marry Adrien Moretti before nearly 200 guests. Her phone vibrated against the marble counter of the bridal suite. She almost ignored it. Her mother was arguing with the florist. Her aunt was searching for the missing pearl earrings. Somewhere beyond the closed doors, an orchestra had already begun playing. Then the message appeared. It was from her younger sister, Lenora. "I'm sorry, Celine." Celestine stared at the words. Another message arrived. "Please don't hate me." Her stomach tightened. Then came the photograph. Lenora sat inside Adrien's silver Aston Martin, wearing jeans, sunglasses, and the cream cardigan Celestine had bought her for Christmas. Adrien was behind the wheel. His left hand rested over Lenora's. Celestine stopped breathing. The fourth message was worse. "We didn't plan for it to happen this way. We've loved each other for months. By the time you read this, we'll already be gone." For several seconds, the room continued moving around her. People spoke. Fabric rustled. Someone laughed in the hallway. The orchestra played. Yet Celestine heard none of it. Her mother approached. "Celine, darling, they're asking whether." Celestine held up the phone. Her mother read the messages. The color drained from her face. "No." Celestine said nothing. "No," her mother repeated. "No, no, no. This is some horrible joke." Celestine looked toward the mirror. A woman in an ivory wedding gown stared back at her. Hair pinned perfectly, diamond earrings, veil cascading over her shoulders. She looked like a bride. She felt like someone standing at her own funeral. Her father entered moments later. He did not ask what happened. His expression told Celestine he already knew. "Adrien's father called me." Her mother turned sharply. "You knew? I found out 5 minutes ago." Celestine removed her veil. Her hands were surprisingly steady. "Where did they go?" Her father hesitated. "Apparently across the border." "With each other?" "Yes." The answer cut deeper than she expected. Not because she loved Adrien desperately. That realization would come later. What destroyed something inside her was the humiliation. Lenora had stood beside her during the dress fitting, helped choose flowers, listened while Celestine discussed honeymoon plans. She had smiled through all of it. And Adrien? He had kissed Celestine goodnight less than 12 hours earlier. Now nearly 200 of Montelu's wealthiest families were sitting inside St. Aurelia Cathedral, waiting to watch her marry a man who had fled with her sister. Her mother gripped Celestine's hand. "We'll tell everyone there's been an emergency." Celestine pulled away. "No, Celine, I'm not hiding." Her father's brows drew together. "What are you going to do?" She picked up the bouquet. "Tell them myself." The cathedral doors opened 14 minutes later. Every head turned. The music stopped. Celestine walked alone. Whispers spread instantly because there was no groom waiting at the altar. She reached the front. The priest looked terrified. Celestine turned toward the guests. Her eyes moved across familiar faces. Business partners. Family friends. Society women who would be discussing this before she reached the parking lot. Men who had negotiated contracts with her father. Journalists who had been invited only because Adrien's family owned half the luxury hotels along Montelu's waterfront. And seated in the final pew, wearing a charcoal suit and an expression unreadable from across the cathedral, was the one man Celestine had never expected to see. Ravian Vescari. The name alone had silenced rooms for nearly 15 years. He owned shipping companies, nightclubs, private security firms, construction businesses, and enough politicians' secrets to make powerful men lower their voices when discussing him. But those were the legitimate businesses. The rumors concerned everything else. Smuggling routes, debt collections, private negotiations that ended with rival organizations disappearing from entire districts. Ravian Vescari was 38 years old and was considered the most feared man in Montelus. He had not been invited, and yet there he was, watching. Celestine lifted the microphone. "My wedding has been canceled." The whispers grew. "My fiancé has left Montelus." She paused. "With my sister." The cathedral erupted. Her mother covered her face. Someone gasped loudly. Several phones appeared immediately. Celestine continued before anyone could pity her. I know many of you came to celebrate a marriage. Unfortunately, there won't be one today. The reception is still paid for. The food is already prepared, and I refuse to let excellent champagne suffer because two cowards developed poor timing. A stunned silence followed. Then someone laughed. Not mockingly, admiringly. More laughter spread. Celestine smiled, although her heart felt like shattered glass. Please enjoy the afternoon. She handed the microphone to the priest, and she walked back down the aisle. She almost reached the doors before Ravian stepped in her path. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair brushed backward. No visible jewelry except a black watch. A narrow scar crossed his right eyebrow. His face carried the calmness of a man who rarely encountered situations he could not control. Miss Armand. She stopped. Mr. Vescari, your father invited me. That surprised her. Why? To discuss something after the ceremony. She glanced toward her father. He looked away. Celestine's humiliation sharpened into irritation. Then apparently you've had a wasted afternoon. Ravian's eyes rested briefly on the abandoned altar. I wouldn't say that. She expected mockery. There was none. Instead, he stepped aside. You handled that well. Celestine gave a humorless smile. I'll add it to my resume. Public abandonment management. Something flickered in his expression. Almost amusement. Then his gaze changed. Your sister and Moretti didn't simply run away. Celestine froze. What? Ravian lowered his voice. Ask your father why I was invited. Then he walked away. Her father refused to explain until they were home. The Armand estate stood above the Easter harbor, surrounded by olive trees and old stone walls. Celestine entered her father's study, still wearing her wedding dress. Her mother had gone upstairs. Her relatives had finally stopped calling. Her phone contained 93 unread messages. Celestine placed it face down. Why was Ravian Vescari at my wedding? Her father poured whiskey. His hand trembled. Celestine noticed. That frightened her more than anything else. Papa. Armand Laurent had built one of Montelu's oldest maritime insurance companies from the remains of his father's failing business. He had survived recessions, lawsuits, political investigations, and 2 attempts at hostile takeover. Celestine had rarely seen him frightened. Tonight, he looked exhausted. Adrian's family has been trying to acquire Armand Maritime for 3 years. I know. What you don't know is how close they came. Her stomach tightened. Her father opened a drawer and removed a folder. Inside were loan agreements, debt notices, bank correspondence. Celestine read quickly. Her shock grew. You borrowed this much? We expanded into cargo protection in Corsara. The government contract collapsed. Then the port strike happened. Then insurance claims tripled. How bad? If the Morettis exercise their debt rights, they can seize controlling interest within 30 days. Celestine looked up. Why didn't you tell me? I thought the marriage would solve it. Her face went still. What? Adrian agreed that once you married, Moretti Holdings would restructure the debt. Celestine stared at her father. You arranged my marriage to save the company? No. You and Adrian were already together, but you encouraged it. Her father said nothing. That silence answered her. Celestine pushed the folder away. The betrayal multiplied. So Adrian gets Lenora, and his family gets the company. It may be worse. Ow! Your sister had access to my office. Lenora wouldn't understand these documents. She wouldn't have to. Celestine remembered something. 3 weeks earlier, Lenora had asked about the safe combination because she claimed she needed their mother's passport for a surprise birthday trip. Celestine had given it to her. A sick feeling rose in her throat. What was in the safe? Original shareholder agreements. Port contracts. Private debt schedules. Celestine closed her eyes. She took them. Copies are missing. Why was Vescari invited? Her father swallowed. Because I asked him for help. Celestine laughed once in disbelief. You asked Ravian Vescari? He owns 26% of North Montelu Shipping. If he backs us, the Morettis cannot isolate our cargo contracts. And what does he want? Her father looked toward the window. That was when Celestine understood. Me? No. The answer came too quickly. Papa. He proposed a corporate alliance. What kind? Her father's silence returned. Celestine walked closer. What kind? He said marriage would create the strongest possible protection. For a moment, Celestine thought the universe had developed a cruel sense of humor. This morning I was supposed to marry Adrian. I know. My sister stole him. I know. And tonight you're telling me another man has proposed? It wasn't a romantic proposal. That somehow makes it worse. Her father lowered his voice. Celine, listen to me. I already refused. Good. But now Adrian has vanished with Lenora, and confidential documents may be compromised. The Morettas could destroy us. Celestine turned away. She wanted to scream. Instead, she began removing the pins from her hair, one by one, dropping them onto her father's desk. Call Ravian. Her father stared. What? Call him. No. You said marriage would protect the company. Yes, but then I want to hear his proposal. Celestine. She looked at him. Today everyone made decisions about my life without me. Her voice cracked for the first time. Adrian decided I wasn't worth an explanation. Lenora decided her happiness mattered more than my dignity. You decided my marriage could stabilize your company. She swallowed. So whatever happens next, I decide. Ravian arrived 40 minutes later. He entered the study accompanied by no visible security. Celestine had changed. She wore black trousers, a white blouse, and no makeup. The wedding dress lay across her bedroom floor. Ravian noticed immediately that she was no longer crying. If she had cried at all, he sat across from her. Her father remained near the fireplace. Celestine spoke first. What do you get? Ravian did not pretend to misunderstand. Access. To what? Your family's Easter Harbor warehouses. Her father stiffened. Celestine noticed. For legal shipping, Ravian leaned back. Everything I intend to place, there will be written into the contract. That wasn't my question. No. The word was calm. Celestine held his gaze. You're surprisingly honest for a criminal. Her father inhaled sharply. Ravian's mouth almost curved. You're surprisingly direct for someone who spent the morning being betrayed. Perhaps I've reached my daily limit for politeness. Fair. What else? 30% voting influence in Armand Maritime for 5 years. Not ownership. Influence. Why marriage? Because corporate alliances can be broken overnight. And marriages can't. They can. But breaking one publicly has consequences. Celestine studied him. You want people to believe our families are permanently aligned. Yes. Especially the Morettas. Yes. Why do you care about them? For the first time, Ravian's expression hardened. Because Salvatore Moretti has been trying to control the Easter Harbor for 6 years. Adrian's father. Celestine understood. So this is war. No. What would you call it? Prevention. She almost smiled. How romantic. I wasn't trying to be romantic. Excellent. I'd hate for this conversation to become confusing. Her father interrupted. This is madness. Celestine looked at Ravian. If I say yes, what happens? Tomorrow, my lawyers restructure your company's immediate obligations. Within 48 hours, I secure the harbor contracts Moretti is attempting to disrupt. And the marriage? As soon as you choose. She stared at him. You really came prepared. I don't attend negotiations unprepared. This isn't a negotiation. It is exactly a negotiation. Something about his answer steadied her. There was no fake affection, no promises, no manipulation disguised as romance. After the day she had survived, honesty felt unexpectedly valuable. Celestine folded her arms. My conditions. Her father turned. Celine. My company shares remain mine. Ravian nodded. You keep your residence available if you choose to leave mine. Yes. My parents receive protection, but your men do not control their lives. Agreed. You don't decide what I wear, where I work, who I speak to, or whether I continue running the foundation. Agreed. You do not touch me unless I want you to. Ravian's eyes sharpened slightly. Agreed. And if I discover you use this situation to hurt Lenora? He interrupted. Your sister is not my target. Even if she helped Adrian? Even then. Celestine leaned forward. Why? Because betrayal should be answered by the person betrayed. The room became quiet. Ravian continued. Not outsourced. Celestine looked at him differently. When? He understood. The marriage. Yes. Friday. It was Tuesday. She gave a short laugh. 4 days after my fiancé ran away with my sister. 3. She stared. Ravian checked his watch. It's after midnight. For the first time that day, Celestine genuinely laughed. It escaped before she could stop it. Her father looked horrified. Ravian looked almost pleased. 3 days later, Celestine married Montelu's most feared man inside a courthouse with 6 witnesses. No cathedral. No orchestra. No roses. No society photographers. She wore a midnight blue dress. Ravian wore black. Her parents attended. His younger brother, Matteo, attended. 2 lawyers watched. And an elderly woman named Signora Branca, who had apparently been Ravian's housekeeper since childhood, cried more than Celestine's mother. When a magistrate asked whether Celestine entered the marriage willingly, she paused. Everyone noticed. Ravian did not move. Celestine looked at him. He waited. No pressure. No warning. No silent command. Just patience. Yes, she said, and signed. The news exploded across Montelus within an hour. Abandoned heiress marries Vescary crime king. Wedding scandal takes dark turn. Armand daughter replaces runaway groom with city's most dangerous bachelor. Celestine read exactly 3 headlines before deleting every news application on her phone. Ravian's home was nothing like she expected. She imagined gold, weapons, men standing everywhere. Instead, Vescary House was an old cliffside villa overlooking the northern sea. Beautiful, severe, quiet. There were security cameras, discreet guards, and reinforced gates, but inside were libraries, pale stone corridors, paintings, and windows overlooking miles of water. Signora Branca showed Celestine to a suite. This is yours. Celestine looked around. Separate bedroom, separate dressing room, separate bathroom, a terrace. Where is Ravian's room? Opposite wing. Celestine turned. Opposite wing. Signora Branca smiled. He said you required space. Something unexpectedly warm moved through Celestine. Then she remembered the contract. Of course. That evening, Ravian found her in the library. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by company documents. You work quickly, he said. Celestine looked up. You married me for my warehouses. I married you because my family's business is collapsing. I thought productivity might keep things appropriately unromantic. He removed his jacket. You've misunderstood one thing. What? I didn't marry you for the warehouses. She frowned. You specifically requested them. I could obtain warehouse access through 20 different contracts. Then why marriage? Ravian looked toward the windows. Because Salvatore Moretti needed to believe I would defend Armand interests as my own. Celestine studied him. And now? They are. The answer landed harder than expected. She looked back at the documents. What happened between you and Salvatore? Ravian did not answer. Celestine glanced up. That expression means there's a story. There is. Will you tell me? Not tonight. She almost pushed, then stopped. She had demanded boundaries. He was entitled to his own. Fine. Ravian began walking away. Ravian, he turned. Thank you. For not making today stranger than it already was. His expression softened. Celestine, I'm capable of many things. I've heard. But forcing affection from a woman who was humiliated 4 days ago isn't one of them. Then he left. The first week of their marriage was unexpectedly ordinary. Celestine worked. Ravian disappeared each morning and returned late. They ate dinner together twice. Argued once about shipping insurance. Discovered they both hated opera but pretended otherwise at public events. And on the 9th evening, Celestine received a message from Lenora. Please meet me. Alone. Celestine stared at the screen. Her first instinct was refusal. Her second was rage. Her third was curiosity. She showed Ravian. You're asking permission? He said. No. Good. I'm asking whether this looks like a trap. It does. She frowned. That doesn't mean it is one. I'll go. Ravian's expression changed. Alone. She asked for me alone. She ran away with your fiancé, carrying stolen corporate documents. My former fiancé. That correction doesn't improve the situation. Celestine folded her arms. You promised not to control where I go. I'm not controlling you. You're doing a convincing impression. Ravian stepped closer, stopping several feet away. If you choose to meet her, I won't stop you. But my security will be nearby. No. Yes. She stared. He stared back. This is the part, Celestine said, where your terrifying reputation becomes inconvenient. This is the part where you confuse independence with unnecessary risk. Her jaw tightened. Then he surprised her. You choose the location. Celestine hesitated. Public. Very. Your men stay outside. They stay invisible. That sounds ominous. They're professionals. She sighed. Fine. Lenora chose a cafe inside the botanical district. Celestine arrived first. Her sister appeared 15 minutes late. Lenora looked terrible. No makeup. Hair tied carelessly. Dark circles beneath her eyes. Celestine felt something dangerous happen inside her. Concern. She hated it. Lenora sat. Thank you for coming. Celestine said nothing. I know you hate me. No. Lenora looked surprised. Hate requires energy. I'm still deciding whether you deserve any. Lenora's eyes filled. Celestine remained still. Where's Adrian? I left him. That was unexpected. When? Yesterday. Celestine's pulse changed. What? Lenora looked around nervously. Because he lied to both of us. Celestine laughed softly. We established that. No. About everything. Lenora reached in her bag and placed a flash drive on the table. I didn't run away because I wanted to destroy your wedding. You could have fooled me. I loved him. Celestine's face hardened. Lenora swallowed. He told me he was trapped, that your marriage was arranged, that you didn't really love him, that you were only marrying because Papa needed the Morettas. Celestine said nothing. He said after the wedding, I'd lose him forever. But your solution was to steal him? I know how it sounds. It sounds accurate. Lenora wiped her cheek. He asked me to copy documents from Papa's office. He told me it was proof that the marriage was business. Celestine's stomach tightened. And you believed him? Yes. You gave him the documents? Yes. The word was almost inaudible. Celestine stood. Lenora grabbed her wrist. Wait. Celestine looked down at her hand. Lenora released her immediately. Please. The drive. What is it? Adrian's files. How did you get them? He left his laptop unlocked. And I copied everything. Celestine sat slowly. Lenora leaned forward. Adrian didn't run away because he loved me. Celestine already knew what came next. He used you. Lenora nodded. He needed access to Papa's files without making it look like corporate theft. Celestine's anger became colder. More focused. What are they planning? I don't understand everything, but I saw Ravian's name everywhere. Celestine froze. What? Adrian kept asking his father about something called Orsini Ledger. Across the street, unseen by both sisters, one of Ravian's security men touched his earpiece. And at Vescary House, Ravian stopped reading the moment the name reached him. Orsini Ledger. A name he had not heard spoken outside his inner circle in 11 years. If you followed Celestine from the cathedral humiliation to this moment, subscribe to the channel, because what Lenora had just uncovered was about to reveal that the ruined wedding had never been the real beginning of this story. Celestine returned home, carrying the flash drive. Ravian was waiting in his study. He did not ask how the meeting went. He asked one question. Where did she hear that name? Celestine closed the door. So you know it? Yes. What is the Orsini Ledger? Ravian's face became unreadable. Sit down. No. Celestine. I'm tired of men telling me to sit before giving me terrible information. Something almost human crossed his expression. Fair. He walked toward a locked cabinet. Inside was an old photograph. Ravian placed it on the desk. 3 young men stood beside a docked cargo vessel. Ravian was one of them, perhaps 25. The second resembled Matteo. The third man was unfamiliar. Who is he? Dante Orsini. What happened to him? He died. Celestine waited. Ravian continued. Dante managed financial records for several families controlling the northern harbor. He discovered Salvatore Moretti had been secretly redirecting shipments, bribing customs officials, and arranging attacks against competitors. Celestine's throat tightened. He kept evidence? A ledger. Where? No one knows. Why does Adrian care now? Because Dante hid enough information to destroy his father. Celestine looked at the photograph. What happened to Dante? Ravian's silence answered before his words did. His car went over a cliff. Accident. No. She looked at him. You believe Salvatore killed him. I know Salvatore ordered it. Ow! Ravian's jaw tightened. Because Dante was my cousin. The missing piece slid into place. That's why you hate the Morettis. I don't hate them. Celestine gave him a look. Hate is emotional. Salvatore is simply unfinished business. She almost laughed, but his expression stopped her. Why marry me? Ravian looked directly at her. Because 3 weeks ago, I learned the Morettis believed the ledger had passed through an Armand vessel after Dante's death. Celestine went still. Our vessel? Yes. And you didn't tell me? I wasn't certain. You married me without telling me my family might possess evidence connected to a murder? I married you to keep Salvatore from seizing your company while I investigated. Her anger rose. You should have told me. Yes. The admission disarmed her. She stared. Ravian continued quietly. I should have. No excuse. I have several. None changed the fact. Celestine looked away. For once, someone had apologized without immediately defending himself. It made staying angry inconvenient. What's on Lenora's flash drive? They spent the next 3 hours reviewing files. Most were financial. Some were encrypted. Then Matteo entered. He was younger than Ravian by 6 years and entirely different. Where Ravian was controlled, Matteo spoke with his hands and cursed at computers. He examined one spreadsheet. This routing code. Ravian looked. Matteo pointed. It's Armand. Celestine leaned closer. No, that code was retired before I joined the company. When, 11 years ago, Ravian and Matteo exchanged a look. The year Dante died. Celestine stood. My grandfather was still chairman then. Ravian said nothing. She turned toward him. You think my family had the ledger? I think someone in your company helped Dante hide it. Celestine barely slept. The next morning, she drove to her parents' estate. Her father denied knowing anything. Her mother knew even less. Then Celestine remembered her grandfather's archive. After his death, boxes of private papers had been moved into a storage building behind the old Armand warehouse. Nobody had opened them in years. By sunset, Celestine, Ravian, Matteo, and 2 security men stood inside a dusty room surrounded by shipping manifests. 3 hours produced nothing. 4 hours. Nothing. At midnight, Matteo opened an old wooden case. Inside were navigation charts. Celestine almost dismissed them. Then she noticed handwriting on one map. Dio. Dante Orsini. Ravian stepped closer. The chart showed the Monte Luz Harbor with one warehouse circled. Warehouse 9. Celestine's expression changed. That building burned down. When? Ravian asked. 11 years ago. Nobody spoke. The following morning, they visited the ruins. Warehouse 9 had never been rebuilt because its foundation had been declared unstable. Celestine walked between cracked walls and rusted beams. Ravian remained close. You should stay behind me. You realize saying that guarantees I won't. I'm beginning to. She smiled despite herself. Then her foot slipped. Ravian caught her around the waist. For one suspended moment, neither moved. Celestine's hand rested against his chest. His arm remained around her. There was no dramatic music. No sudden confession. Only silence. And awareness. She stepped back first. Thank you. You're welcome. Neither mentioned it again. But something had shifted. They found a compartment beneath what remained of the old supervisor's office. Inside was not a ledger. It was a metal key. Attached to it was a brass tag bearing the number 417. Matteo frowned. A bank box. Celestine turned the tag over. 3 letters were engraved beneath the number. AVB. Aurelia Vault Bank, she said. Ravian's eyes narrowed. The private bank had closed 8 years earlier. Its safety deposit accounts had been transferred to Central Monte Luz Trust. The following day, Ravian's lawyers obtained access records. Box 417 still existed, but someone had attempted to access it 6 days earlier. Adrian Moretti. Celestine felt ice move through her. He knows. Ravian nodded. And he knows we may know. That evening, Lenora disappeared. Her apartment was empty. Her phone was found inside her car. There was no blood, no sign of struggle, only a message written on the windshield in black marker. Celestine stared at it until the numbers blurred. Ravian stood beside her. This is my fault. No, he used her because of me. He used her because of his father. If I hadn't... Ravian turned her toward him. Celestine. His voice was firm. This is not the cathedral. She stared. You don't stand alone this time. Something inside her broke. Not dramatically. Quietly. She pressed her forehead against his chest. Ravian did not immediately embrace her. He waited. When she did not pull away, his arms closed around her. For the first time since the abandoned wedding, Celestine cried. Not because of Adrian. Not even because of Lenora. Because she was exhausted from being strong in rooms where everyone expected her to collapse. Ravian held her without speaking. After several minutes, she stepped back. Find my sister. We will. No. She wiped her face. We find her. Ravian looked at her, then nodded. Together. The plan was simple. They would open box 417. The contents might reveal why Lenora had been taken. Central Montelus Trust agreed to grant Celestine access because records showed the box had been registered jointly to Dante Orsini and Henri Armand, Celestine's grandfather. Inside was a ledger and a cassette tape. Matteo found an old recorder. Dante's voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, then I failed to leave Montelus alive. Celestine looked at Ravian. His face had gone pale. The recording continued. Dante described Salvatore Moretti's network, bribe port officials, illegal cargo transfers, political payoffs, and one murder planned against a union organizer. Then came the final revelation. Henri Armand had helped Dante collect the evidence. Celestine's grandfather had been his secret ally. Near the end, Dante said something none of them expected. Salvatore is not working alone. Someone inside the Vescari family has been feeding him information. Ravian froze. Matteo whispered. No. Dante named the traitor. Alessandro Vescari. Ravian and Matteo's uncle. A man still alive. A man who had attended every Vescari family gathering for decades. A man Ravian trusted enough to control 2 shipping companies. The betrayal struck silently. Ravian sat. Celestine had never seen him look vulnerable. Not once. She walked toward him. He stared at the floor. I spent 11 years believing Dante died because I failed to protect him. Celestine crouched in front of him. You were 27. I knew Salvatore was dangerous. You weren't responsible. I should have seen Alessandro. Ow! Ravian looked at her. She held his gaze. You told me betrayal should be answered by the person betrayed. He remembered. So, answer it. Alessandro confessed faster than expected. Not out of remorse. Out of arrogance. Ravian confronted him privately. Celestine attended despite Ravian's objections. The older man looked almost amused when the recording played. You always were sentimental about Dante, Alessandro said. Ravian stood completely still. You sold him. I protected this family. You protected yourself. Dante wanted to expose everyone. Do you understand what would have happened? Yes. Ravian's voice became quieter. He would have forced us to become better men. Alessandro laughed. And now you've become one because of a woman? His eyes moved to Celestine. That's disappointing. Ravian stepped forward. Celestine touched his arm. He stopped. That single movement said more about the man he had become than any declaration could have. Alessandro noticed too. His smile disappeared. Then Celestine asked the question that mattered. Where is Lenora? Alessandro looked at her. You think I took her? No. Then why ask? Because Adrian learned about box 417 through someone. You're the only person besides Salvatore who knew what was inside. Alessandro's expression changed. Only slightly. Enough. Ravian saw it. So, Salvatore has her. Alessandro said nothing. Matteo stepped forward. Where? Still nothing. Celestine opened the ledger. You know what this contains. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. If my sister dies, this goes to every prosecutor, journalist, and rival family in Monteluz before sunrise. Ravian looked at her. Even he seemed impressed. Alessandro studied Celestine, then smiled faintly. Understand why he married you. Where is she? The old Moretti vineyard. They went without Alessandro. Police would have taken too long and tipped Salvatore's allies. Ravian wanted Celestine nowhere near the vineyard. Celestine ignored him. At last he stopped arguing. Stay beside Matteo. No. Ravian exhaled. Of course not. The vineyard stood outside Monteluz, surrounded by abandoned fields. They found Lenora locked inside a guest house. Adrian was with her. He was not guarding her. He was trying to free her. When Celestine entered, Adrian froze. For one strange second, the three people whose betrayal had started everything simply stare at one another. Lenora ran to Celestine. Celestine held her, then looked at Adrian. What happened? My father. Adrian's face was bruised. He found out Lenora took my files. You expect me to believe you're protecting her now? No. Adrian swallowed. I expect you to hate me. That's the first intelligent thing you've said in weeks. He looked down. I never planned for her to get hurt. Celestine's anger flashed. You lied to her. Lied to me. Used her to steal documents. Destroyed our wedding. Helped your father attack my family. I know. Why? Adrian's expression collapsed. Because I spent my entire life being afraid of him. Celestine stared. It wasn't an excuse, but it was truth. Before she could answer, headlights swept across the windows. Salvatore arrived. The confrontation lasted less than 10 minutes. No explosions. No theatrical gunfight. Only men who understood that one wrong decision could end several lives. Salvatore entered the main house and found Ravian waiting. Celestine stood beside him. The ledger rested on the table. Salvatore looked at it, then at Ravian. So Dante finally won. Ravian's expression was cold. No. He glanced at Celestine. We did. Salvatore laughed. You become soft. Ravian answered without hesitation. No. I became selective about what deserves violence. Police sirens sounded in the distance. Salvatore's expression changed. Celestine had sent copies of the ledger to 3 prosecutors before entering the vineyard. And Matteo had anonymously sent Dante's recording to 2 investigative journalists. Salvatore realized too late that the battle was already over. He looked at Adrian. His own son stood beside Lenora. You chose her. Adrian shook his head. No. Everyone looked at him. Adrian continued. I chose not to become you. Salvatore was arrested that night. Alessandro was detained 2 days later. Several customs officials resigned. 2 politicians fled the country. Moretti Holdings collapsed under investigation. Armand Maritime survived. But Celestine did not forgive Adrian. Not immediately. Perhaps not ever. When he came to see her weeks later, she met him at a public garden. I'm sorry, he said. I know. I loved you in my way. Celestine looked at him calmly. That was the problem. He nodded. Will you forgive me? One day, hope appeared in his face. She continued. But forgiveness doesn't mean restoration. He understood. And Lenora? That's between you and her. Lenora did not return to Adrian. That surprised everyone. She moved into a small apartment near the university and began working for a nonprofit supporting women recovering from financial exploitation. She and Celestine rebuilt their relationship slowly. There were arguments, silences, tears. Some wounds reopened before they closed. One afternoon, Lenora finally asked the question she had avoided. Do you wish I hadn't run away with him? Celestine looked across the cafe. For a long moment, she considered it. Yes. Lenora's face fell. Celestine reached across the table. I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me the truth. Lenora's eyes filled. But I no longer wish my old life had continued exactly as planned. Lenora smiled through tears. Because of Ravian? Celestine looked away. Which answered everything. Her marriage contract with Ravian allowed either person to leave after 1 year. On the anniversary, Celestine found him on the terrace. A folder rested on the table. He looked at it. The agreement expires at midnight. I know. My lawyer prepared dissolution papers. Celestine's chest tightened. Oh. Ravian studied her face. I didn't say I signed them. She looked at him. He walked closer. For a year, I have tried very hard not to mistake gratitude for love. Celestine's pulse quickened. And it isn't gratitude. He stopped in front of her. I remember how you take your coffee. I know you read financial reports when you're angry. I know you pretend not to be afraid during storms, but you close every window twice. She smiled. Ravian continued. I know you forgive slowly because when you love someone, you give them access to places they can actually damage. Her smile disappeared. I know you don't need rescuing. His voice softened. But I want to be the person beside you when you rescue yourself. Celestine's eyes burned. That's terribly romantic for a man who promised not to be romantic. I've had a difficult year. She laughed, then became serious. My turn. Ravian waited. I know you stand at windows when you're worried because pacing makes you feel out of control. His brow lifted. I know you call Matteo every morning even when you pretend he irritates you. He does irritate me. He adores you. Unfortunately, I know you still keep Dante's photograph in your desk. Ravian's expression softened. And I know everyone in Montelus is afraid of you. Celestine stepped closer. But I'm not. Maybe you should be. No. She touched the scar above his eyebrow. Because I know the difference between the man they fear and the man who waited for permission before holding his own wife. Ravian became very still. Celestine smiled. I don't want the dissolution papers. His voice dropped. Are you certain? Yes. Celestine. What? You're about to ruin my reputation. She laughed, then kissed him. A year earlier, Celestine had walked into a cathedral believing the worst thing that could happen to a woman was being abandoned at the altar. She had been wrong. The worst thing would have been marrying someone who had already chosen betrayal. Her sister's decision shattered the life Celestine thought she wanted. But the pieces exposed truths she might never have discovered. About Adrian. About her father's company. About Lenora. About her grandfather. And especially about herself. Armand Maritime eventually recovered. Celestine became chairwoman 2 years later. Lenora returned to university. Matteo opened a legitimate shipping consultancy and complained constantly that respectability was exhausting. Adrian left Montelus and rebuilt his life far from his father's shadow. Ravian transformed more of the Vescary businesses into legitimate enterprises. Not because Celestine demanded it, but because Dante's final words had forced him to question what kind of legacy fear alone could leave behind. And every year on their courthouse anniversary, Ravian gave Celestine something deliberately unromantic. The first year, a shipping compass. The second, a fountain pen. The third, the deed to Warehouse 9, rebuilt as a maritime scholarship center bearing Dante Orsini and Henri Armand's names. Celestine cried when she saw it. Ravian pretended not to notice. Then she kissed him in front of 50 people and destroyed his terrifying reputation all over again. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel for more emotional mafia stories where betrayal, courage, danger, and unexpected love collide. And tell me in the comments, which moment changed everything for you? The moment Celestine faced the wedding guests alone, Lenora revealing that Adrian had used her, Ravian discovering his own uncle betrayed Dante, or Celestine choosing to remain married after their 1-year agreement ended? Comment your favorite moment, and don't forget to subscribe.